The summons, the rain fell hard over New London, turning the streets into rivers of silver. In a small apartment on the 27th floor, Captain Elias Ward sat in the dark, staring at the city lights. He had fought in the war against the Tsur Empire 5 years ago. He had watched friends die under alien fire, and he had seen Earth burn. Now, the war was over, but victory had not come. Humanity had lost, and the price of that loss was still being paid. Every single day, Elias had learned to keep his head down. The Tsur ruled Earth now, not with bombs, but with laws, strange, cold laws that no human could understand. They took resources. They took land, and sometimes they took people. No one ever came back on this night. Elias was drinking his last glass of cheap whiskey when a sound made him freeze. A deep, metallic knock at his door. 3 slow bangs. Everyone knew that sound. Tsurns, his hand tightened around the glass. He didn't want to open the door, but not opening it would be worse. When he pulled it open, 2 alien soldiers stood in the hallway. Their armor was black and polished like wet stone. Their insect-like faces twitched as they looked down at him. One of them spoke in a deep voice that echoed like a drum. "Captain Elias Ward, you have been chosen. The High Court demands your presence." Elias's stomach turned cold. No human wanted to hear those words. "Why?" he asked, his voice low. The alien ignored his question. Instead, it handed him a thin silver scroll. The surface shimmered like liquid metal. "This is your summons. You will come at first light," the alien said. Then, without another word, the soldiers turned and walked away, their heavy steps fading into the night. Elias closed the door and locked it. His hands were shaking. He unrolled the silver scroll. Strange alien symbols glowed on its surface before shifting into English. The message was short. By order of the High Court of the Tsur Empire, Captain Elias Ward is required to comply with Directive 7-23 for the preservation of species. Failure to obey will result in the extinction of his bloodline. He read it again, slower this time. Preservation of species? He whispered to himself. The words made no sense. What kind of law was this? And what did it have to do with his family? A sudden memory came to him, a broadcast 2 weeks ago. The Tsur High Magistrate announcing a new decree, something about human continuity and genetic security. He hadn't paid much attention at the time. It had sounded like one more alien rule in a long list of alien rules. But now it was at his door. Elias looked out the window in the distance. Alien patrol ships hovered over the city like dark clouds. Somewhere deep inside, a feeling of dread grew. He knew that Tsur didn't care about preserving humans. They had almost destroyed Earth. If they wanted something from him now, it couldn't be good. Hours passed, but Elias didn't sleep. He sat in his chair, staring at the scroll. At dawn, a low hum filled the air outside. When he stepped onto his balcony, he saw a transport ship waiting in the street below. It was shaped like a black spear, silent except for the soft vibration in the air. The 2 soldiers from last night stood beside it. They didn't need to knock again. He knew it was time. Elias grabbed his jacket and stepped into the elevator. The streets were empty, the ship's ramp lowered, and he walked up without a word. Inside, the air was cold and smelled faintly of metal and something sweet. The walls pulsed with soft blue light. He sat on a bench as the ship lifted into the air. The city fell away beneath them. Then the clouds swallowed everything. As they broke through the upper atmosphere, Elias saw the black shape of the Tsur mothership above. It was massive, like a city hanging in the sky. The transport slid into its docking bay, and the ramp lowered again. Elias stepped out into a place no human wanted to see. The halls were high and narrow, lined with glowing symbols. Alien guards watched him with expressionless faces. They led him into a chamber filled with light. At the far end sat 3 Tsur judges. Their robes shimmered like liquid silver. One of them leaned forward, its voice smooth but sharp. "Captain Elias Ward," it said, "your presence here is necessary for the survival of both our species." Elias said nothing. The judge continued, Directive 7-23 demands your compliance. You will return to your home and fulfill the order. If you refuse, your bloodline will end with you." Elias felt his fists clench. "I want to know why," he said. The judges didn't answer instead. The central judge tapped a claw against the floor. An alien servant stepped forward, bowing low as Elias was led out of the chamber. The servant brushed past him and slipped something small into his hand. It was cold and hard. "A data crystal," the servant whispered in a voice so low it was almost a breath. "The truth will kill them first." Elias didn't understand the words, but he knew one thing. Whatever was happening, it was bigger than him, and it had just begun. The alien court, the transport ship, cut through the upper layers of Earth's atmosphere and into the silent cold of space. Elias sat alone on the metal bench, his hands tight around the small data crystal hidden in his palm. The alien soldiers hadn't noticed it. They stood at the front, still and silent like statues, their black armor catching the glow of distant stars. Outside the narrow window, space stretched endless and dark, here and there. Fragments of destroyed ships floated, ghosts from the war. Elias recognized one, a human battlecruiser split in half, drifting forever in the void. It was a reminder that Tyr always won. After several hours, the ship slowed. Elias saw it ahead. The Tsor capital world, Vorith. It hung in space like a black pearl, its surface wrapped in storms of deep red and gold. Huge crystal towers rose from its continents, glittering even from orbit. The planet looked beautiful and dangerous. The ship entered the atmosphere, passing over endless alien cities. Elias saw towers shaped like spines, bridges of living crystal, and streets that twisted like rivers. Alien creatures of all shapes moved below. Some resembled the Tsur soldiers, tall, insect-like, with armored skin. Others were smaller, moving in swarms, carrying glowing objects in their clawed hands. Finally, they landed on a vast landing platform high above the city. The air was thinner here, colder. 2 new guards appeared, their armor marked with golden lines, court guards. Without a word, they took Elias by the arms and led him into the palace. The corridors were long and narrow, the walls alive with shifting light. Every step echoed as if the place itself was listening. Elias noticed carvings along the walls, scenes of alien battles, conquests, and strange ceremonies. In one carving, a smaller race was kneeling before the Tsur, their faces twisted in fear. He wondered if those beings were still alive or if they had vanished like so many others. At last the guards pushed open 2 massive doors. Elias stepped inside the Hall of Judgment. It was vast, shaped like an oval, the ceiling lost in shadows. A circle of alien judges sat at the far end, their seats raised high above the floor. They wore robes of liquid silver that rippled with every movement. Their eyes glowed a cold green, unblinking. In the center of the floor was a round platform. The guards pushed Elias onto it, and a beam of white light locked him in place. The air felt heavier here. Every breath was an effort. The judge in the middle leaned forward. Its face was long and angular, its mouth a thin line of sharp teeth. "Captain Elias Ward," it said. Its voice carried through the hall without echo, smooth and dangerous. "You stand before the High Court of the Tsur Empire to answer to Directive 723. Elias kept his voice steady. "I want to know what this is about." The judge ignored his tone. "Directive 723 is for the preservation of both our species." It said, "You will comply or your bloodline will be erased." The words hung in the air like a shadow. Elias took a step forward. "You're asking me to follow a law that makes no sense." "Why me? Why now?" Another judge, smaller but with sharper features, spoke. "You carry something rare, Captain Ward. Something we need." It paused, as if choosing its next words carefully. "Your compliance is not a request. It is the price of your continued existence." Elias felt the crystal in his palm. Still hidden, he thought of the servant's whispered warning. The truth will kill them first. But he couldn't show it now, not here. If the Tyr knew he had it, he'd never leave this place alive. The central judge's eyes narrowed. You will return to your homeworld and follow the directive immediately. Its claw tapped the arm of its throne. If you resist, the Tsar fleet will remove your name, your family, and your history from existence. The beam of white light faded. The guards grabbed his arms again, leading him back toward the doors. But as they turned him away, Elias caught sight of something. High above, in the shadows of the hall, alien nobles sat in private balconies. Some of them were watching with interest, others with clear discomfort. It was strange. Even some of the Tsur didn't seem united in this law. Outside the hall, the corridors seemed longer, colder. Elias was marched through twisting paths until they reached a smaller chamber. Here, the alien servant from before was waiting. It kept its head low, pretending to adjust a tray of strange fruit. As the guards passed, it moved close, whispering, "Without looking up, do not obey. If you do, you will kill more than you save." Elias didn't answer, but his grip on the crystal tightened. The guards pushed him into the transport again, this time as the ship lifted from the Tsero capital. Elias didn't look at the city below. His mind was already turning. The High Court had given him no choice. But he knew one thing. Whatever Directive 723 was, it wasn't about preserving humans. It was about controlling them, and maybe destroying them entirely. The hidden message. The journey back to Earth felt longer. Elias sat in the corner of the transport ship, the cold metal of the data crystal pressing into his palm. The alien guards stood silent as ever, but he could feel their eyes on him. They didn't trust him. Maybe they never had. When the ship landed in the dark outskirts of New London, the soldiers released him without a word. The ramp lifted, and the ship vanished into the sky like a shadow melting into the night. Elias didn't go home immediately. He knew better than to take anything strange to his apartment. The Tsur watched everything, even in your own bedroom. There were ears you couldn't see. Instead, he went to an old warehouse near the docks. It had been abandoned since the war, its roof half collapsed. Only the seagulls and the wind came here now, inside. He found a dusty corner hidden behind metal crates. He knelt down, unwrapped the data crystal, and held it up to the faint light. It was no bigger than his thumb. A faint blue glow moved inside it, like a trapped star. Elias pulled a small battered device from his jacket, an old human field reader. It was illegal now, but he had kept it from his days as a soldier. He slid the crystal into the reader. The device hummed, then spat out static. A moment later, a flickering image appeared in the air. The face of the alien servant looked back at him. Its skin was pale green, its eyes wide and nervous. When it spoke, its voice was quick, urgent. "Captain Ward, if you are seeing this, I am already dead." Elias froze. The alien continued, "The High Court's law is a lie. They do not wish to preserve your people. They wish to harvest them." The image flickered, but the alien's words kept coming. "They are dying. A sickness moves through the Tsor, killing them by the thousands. It began on their homeworld, but it spreads fast. Only human DNA can resist it. Only your blood can resist it completely." Elias leaned forward, his mind racing. The alien's voice dropped lower, as if someone could still overhear. Directive 723 is not about breeding. It is about extraction. They will take what they need, and the humans will die in the process. The image looked directly at him now. "They chose you first because you are immune. Your family will not survive the process." Elias's breath caught. His daughter, Liana. His fists tightened. The alien glanced over its shoulder, as if someone was coming. "You cannot fight them with ships or guns. But there is a way. The data I leave with you contains their genetic weakness. Use it, or your world is finished." The image distorted violently through the static. Elias heard one last whisper. "Someone close to you already serves them." Hologram vanished, leaving only the faint hum of the reader. Elias sat still for a long time. Outside, the wind howled over the black water. When he finally moved, his hands were steady. He pocketed the crystal and walked out into the night. If the alien was right, the Tsor were more desperate and more dangerous than anyone on Earth knew. And somewhere out there, someone he trusted was already working for them. The streetlights flickered as he walked back toward the city. He didn't notice the shadow moving on the rooftops above. The figure followed him silently, its eyes glowing faint green in the dark, watching, waiting. The betrayal. The rain returned the next night, tapping against the windows of the safe house. Elias sat at a long metal table with 4 people he trusted, or thought he trusted. There was Dr. Mara, a quiet scientist who had studied alien biology. Before the war, Jace Rowan, an ex-soldier who had fought beside Elias in the siege of Europa. Rennick, a skilled hacker with too many enemies, and Commander Harlan, his old superior officer. A man who had once saved Elias's life. On the table between them sat the data crystal. The faint blue light inside seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Dr. Mara leaned forward, her voice low. If what this alien said is true, they don't want our survival. They want our extinction. Jace slammed his fist on the table. Then why wait? Let's hit their labs now. We've fought them before. We can fight them again. Elias shook his head. Not without a plan. If they get even a hint we know the truth, they'll act faster and we'll lose everyone. Rennick, tapping on his small portable screen, frowned. I've cracked part of the file, he said. Its coordinates. Some kind of restricted zone. I think it's where they're keeping people. The room went silent. Elias felt a sharp twist in his chest. If his daughter was anywhere, it might be there. Commander Harlan's voice broke the silence. And if it is? You think you can just walk in? The Tsor will be waiting. His tone was harsh, too harsh. Elias looked at him. Harlan's eyes didn't meet his. It was then Elias noticed something. A tiny green glimmer on the collar of Harlan's coat. A faint glow, like the eyes of the shadow that had followed him the night before. Elias's heart sank. He knew what it was. A Tsor control beacon. They used them to monitor and command their human agents. Harlan, Elias said slowly. The others looked between them, confused. Harlan's jaw tightened. Don't do this, Elias, he said quietly. Do what? Elias asked, his voice cold. Pretend you didn't know? Jace stood, his hand going to the knife on his belt. Harlan's hand dropped to his own weapon. The tension in the room snapped like a wire under too much strain. You think we can win, Harlan said. His voice grew louder now, full of anger. You think there's any way to stop them? You've seen what they can do. The only way to survive is to serve them, by giving them my daughter. Elias's voice shook, but it wasn't fear, it was rage. Harlan's eyes flicked toward the crystal on the table. They want you alive. If I give you to them, they'll leave the rest of us alone. The words hit the room like a gunshot. Jace lunged, the table crashing sideways. Dr. Mara scrambled back as weapons came up. The fight was short, brutal. Elias and Jace managed to disarm Harlan, but in the struggle, the commander shoved them both hard and ran for the door. Let him go, Elias said, his breath heavy. Jace stared at him in disbelief. He'll tell them everything. Elias nodded. I know. And that's how we'll find them. He looked down at the crystal still glowing faintly on the floor. Now they had a new problem, that Sol would be coming, and they'd be bringing his daughter with them. The Rescue the Tur facility stood on the edge of a frozen wasteland. From the air, it looked like a black scar on the white snow. Sharp towers, connected by narrow bridges, with searchlights cutting through the storm. Elias, Jace, and Dr. Mara crouched inside the cargo hold of a stolen alien skimmer. Its humming engines were the only sound in the howling wind. Jace checked the stolen guard uniforms. They're too tight, he muttered. Pulling at the stiff black armor, Mara gave him a quick glare. Better tight than dead, she said. Elias didn't join in. His eyes were locked on the map projected from the data crystal. A red marker pulsed inside the deepest part of the facility, where his daughter was. The skimmer slipped past the outer patrols. The stolen codes Rennick had hacked worked perfectly. Inside the main gate, the world changed. The snow and ice were replaced by steel corridors lit in pale green. Alien signs glowed on the walls. Their meaning unreadable, but Elias didn't need to read them. He followed the path burned into his mind from the map. They passed other Tsur soldiers, none of whom spoke. The air inside was warm but heavy, filled with a faint chemical smell. Somewhere deeper in the facility, a low hum vibrated through the floor. It was the sound of alien machines working. When they reached a wide chamber, Mara froze. Dozens of humans were there, inside glass tubes filled with thick blue liquid. Each was unconscious, their bodies connected to thin silver wires. Machines pumped glowing fluid into their veins. Elias's stomach twisted. "They're not keeping them alive," Mara whispered. "They're draining them," Jace swore under his breath. Elias forced himself to look away. He couldn't help them. Not yet. If they freed the captives now, alarms would go off, and they'd lose Liana. 2 more corridors, a locked gate, and then they found her. Liana lay inside a small chamber, surrounded by alien monitors. Her skin was pale, her lips slightly parted. Silver lines ran from her arm to a humming machine. Elias pressed his hand against the glass. "She's alive," Mara said quickly, reading the monitors. "But not for long." Jace started on the lock, but before the door could open, a deep voice filled the room. "You've come far, Captain Ward." Elias turned. Magistrate Veer stood in the doorway, taller than he remembered. His silver robe shimmered in the cold green light. 2 elite guards flanked him, their weapons ready. Veer's eyes glowed with quiet amusement. "I knew you would not obey. That is why I let you leave the court," he said. "You are the key. The others are." Background noise. Elias stepped between Veer and his daughter. "I'm not giving you anything," he said. Veer tilted his head. "You already have. Every drop of your blood contains what we need. Your daughter inherited it." He glanced toward the machine connected to Liana. "When she is finished, we will have enough to save our entire race." Mara's hand moved slowly toward a hidden device. In her sleeve, a small MP charge. Elias caught her eye and gave the smallest nod. She pressed the trigger. The lights flickered. The machine screamed, and the glass door hissed open. Jace lunged forward, pulling Liana free while Elias tackled one of the guards. The fight was brutal in the dark, flashes of green light from alien weapons lighting the room. Elias drove his fist into the guard's throat, then ripped the weapon from its hand. Jace fired a burst that sent the second guard crashing into the wall, but when the lights came back on, Veer was gone. Only his voice echoed through the chamber. "You can run, Ward, but the plague will follow you home." Elias lifted Liana into his arms. Her breathing was shallow, but she was alive. They ran back the way they came. The alarms were already blaring now, red lights flashing along the corridors. Alien soldiers poured into the halls. Jace and Elias fired as they moved, Mara guiding them toward the skimmer. The doors of the landing bay opened to the storm outside. Snow tore at their faces as they sprinted up the ramp. The engines roared, lifting the skimmer into the night sky below. The facility's lights faded into the blizzard. Elias looked down at his daughter. He had her back, but Veer's words burned in his mind. The sore plague was coming, and Earth wasn't ready. The confrontation. The safe house was silent, except for the sound of the storm outside. Liana lay on a narrow bed, her breathing slow but steady. Dr. Mara checked her every few minutes, adjusting the small oxygen unit they'd brought from the facility. Elias stood by the window, watching the dark streets below. Jace paced like a caged animal, his hand resting on the grip of his rifle. "She's stable," Mara said quietly, "but whatever they took from her, it weakened her badly." Elias nodded without looking away from the window. "They'll come for her again," he said, And this time, they won't leave without her. Jay stopped pacing. Then we take the fight to them. His voice was hard. Elias turned slowly. I'm listening. Rennick's face appeared on the small screen, static flickering around him. I traced the facility's transmissions after you left, he said. They're sending data straight to the High Court, genetic records, samples, everything. He leaned closer to the camera. If we can get inside their main network hub, we can corrupt every file they have. Wipe their research. Without that, the plague will eat them alive. Mara looked uneasy. That's not just sabotage. That's genocide. Elias's voice was cold. They started this. If they want our extinction, I'm not going to save theirs. Before anyone could answer, a deep, metallic knock echoed from the door. Elias's heart clenched. Jace moved fast, swinging the door open with his weapon raised. But there were no alien soldiers, only a single figure, the alien servant from the court, drenched in rain, its pale green skin shining in the dim light. You don't have much time, it said. Stepping inside, Vire knows you have the crystal. He will not stop. He is moving the court to a secure location, the High Spire. Elias frowned. And that's where the main network hub is, the servant added, its eyes locked on Elias. This is your only chance. But if you go there, you may not come back. Elias glanced at Liana, then at Jace. We go, he said without hesitation. Mara stepped forward. If we're doing this, we need a distraction big enough to pull their guards away from the spire. The servant nodded slowly. I can arrange that. But you'll have only minutes inside before they seal it. That night, the plan took shape. Rennick would use stolen Xur signals to trigger a false emergency at the court gates. The servant would guide Elias and Jace through a hidden passage. Used by maintenance drones, Mara would wait outside with Liana, ready to move if things went wrong. Hours later, under the cover of darkness, they reached the High Spire. The structure was enormous, rising from the city like a black fang piercing. The clouds, lightning flashed across its surface, revealing hundreds of alien symbols carved into the stone-like walls. At its peak, a faint green light pulsed, the heart of the Xur network. Inside the maintenance tunnel, the air was hot and thick with the hum of energy conduits. Jace moved ahead, cutting through a security grate. They slipped inside a narrow shaft that led upward toward the central chamber. The deeper they went, the more Elias could feel it, the weight of the entire alien empire pressing down on them. Finally they reached the chamber. It was vast, filled with floating screens and streams of glowing code in the alien language. In the center, a single towering machine pulsed with green light. This is it, Rennick's voice crackled through. Come. Plug the crystal in, it'll do the rest. Elias stepped forward, but a deep voice froze him in place. I told you, Captain Ward, you can run, but you can't hide. From the shadows, Magistrate Veer stepped into the light. He was alone, but the calm in his eyes said he didn't need guards. You think you can destroy us with a piece of stolen data? Veer asked. That crystal holds the cure. If you use it the way you intend, you will doom billions. Elias's grip tightened on the crystal. Billions who were ready to wipe out my people, he said. Veer's expression hardened. And when we are gone, who will be left to protect you from what comes next? For a moment, Elias hesitated. The storm outside roared against the walls of the spire. Jace's voice cut through the silence. Elias, do it. The final strike. Elias stood in the center of the High Spire's network chamber. The data crystal in his hand glowed brighter now, casting a cold blue light across his face. Veer stood only a few steps away, his green eyes locked on Elias. The hum of the great machine filled the silence between them. You have a choice, Veer said quietly. Destroy this data, and you kill my people. But you also weaken the galaxy. Others will come, far worse than us. Elias's jaw tightened. You talk about protection, but all you've done is enslave and bleed us. Lightning flashed outside the high windows. Jace moved closer, his rifle aimed at Veer. "We don't have time for this," he said. "They'll seal the chamber any second." Vyer's gaze didn't leave Elias. "I offered you a place in the New Order. You could have saved both our races. But now—" His hand moved toward the console. Jace fired. A bolt of energy slamming into the floor at Vyer's feet. The alien froze. Elias stepped forward, sliding the crystal into the machine's core. The change was instant. The green light of the network shifted to blue, then began to ripple like water. Streams of alien code shattered, twisting into unreadable fragments. From somewhere deep in the spire came a low, rumbling sound. Rennick's voice crackled through the cum. "It's working. Their files are collapsing. Every lab, every archive, gone." Vyer's composure broke. "You fool. Without that data, the plague will consume us in months." Elias stared back at him. "Then you'll know what it feels like." Alarms screamed through the chamber. The floor shook under their feet as the building's shields began to fail. Jace grabbed Elias's arm. "We've got to move now." They ran for the maintenance tunnel. Vyer's voice echoed behind them, furious and desperate. "This is not the end, Ward. You've unleashed more than you understand." Outside, the storm had grown violent. The high spire's upper levels glowed with bursts of failing energy as the network collapsed. The alien servant was waiting with Mara and Liana at the skimmer. "Go," the servant urged, shoving them toward the ramp. Behind them, alien ships began to rise, their formation broken and chaotic without the central command system. The skimmer shot into the night sky. From above, they saw the high spire's green light flicker and die. Across the city, alien towers dimmed one by one. The Tsur Empire's grip on the planet was breaking. In the quiet of the skimmer's cabin, Liana stirred. Her voice was weak but clear. "Dad?" Elias held her close. "It's over," he said, but deep inside, he knew it wasn't. Far below, on the ruined streets of the Tsir's capital, shadows moved, strange shapes that were not alien soldiers. Vyer's final words echoed in Elias's mind. "You've unleashed more than you understand." As the skimmer disappeared into the storm, lightning lit the horizon, and in that brief flash, Elias thought he saw something in the clouds. A massive dark shape, moving, watching, waiting.